Hey everybody, welcome to another segment of Tony's show. Got too high. Anyway, today I'm going to be a bit controversial. Some people are going to be a little pissed off at some of the things I'm going to say today. That's okay. I have a tendency to do that. I have a tendency to irk and irritate people sometimes. Some of the things I say, I try to be as provocative as I can be to get you to provoke you into thinking and not just accepting bullshit and accepting truisms that aren't really true. Some of them have actually no basis in fact. In fact, some of the truisms that you're believing today have kept you in a state of confusion. So I hopefully will offer you at least the concept of examining and investigating some of the things you believe. See, a group of us get together, and we come from all different walks and different beliefs, all of us. And so we've come to this conclusion based on some of the things that we have compared notes with on what we believe, and have come to the realization that we have to now deprogram ourselves, because a lot of things that we've all been taught, irrespective of whatever ideology, faith, philosophy, or opinions that you may have, are wrong. They've been wrong. They have been a deception, misconceptions, misdirects. You know, it's amazing when you start to examine some of the things that you've been through in life, and some of the things, and especially if you've been around for a while, and seeing all the bullshit that we're seeing today and the manipulation. I mean, the ignorance of the general population is stunning. Stunning. Nobody reads, nobody really investigates, even on this corona thing and COVID, and how the general population has been manipulated to go from corona to COVID. There is no virus called COVID. COVID is a identification marker of a vaccine. That's what it really is. But they got everybody from corona to COVID because that's social engineering. That's to get you enslaved. So I'm going to talk about slavery, okay? Because everybody is a slave. Whatever term you may use, no matter how you call yourself, how you identify yourself, whether you're a color, whether you're of ethnicity, whether you're religion, whether you're a culture, we are all slaves. And if you think you're free, really try to do something that is considered illegal or against the law or violates a regulation. Wait and see how free you aren't. If you're so free, why do you have to wear a mask? Why are you mandated to wear a mask for something that doesn't exist? For something that they can't even prove exists? For something that is just a bunch of baloney. I heard today, Mr. Trump got possibly a COVID infection. I looked at that and I started to laugh. I had to laugh hard. Not because he got infected. I'm laughing because of the manipulation and the theatrics here. One, you can't get infected with COVID. It's a vaccine identifier, number one. Number two, my first thought came as to what drug company is he now going to support to boost their sales, like he did with that $760 million invested for a piece of cardboard. They bought 150 million pieces of cardboard for $760 million, which is supposed to help you identify if you got an infection or not. It's ludicrous, but the ludicrousness of it all is that the ignorance of the general population will fall for this. And now, as a result, the stocks of that drug company that put that device out there, has gone up. All the president has to do is make a stand somewhere and just explain something in regarding to a drug company or whatever, and all of a sudden the stocks of that company go up. So this is something nobody pays attention to. And I know there's a lot of people who believe in Trump and all that, and you know what, that's great. I'm not of any political stripe. I'll tell you straight out, I don't believe in any of the none of the political system whatsoever. None. None at all. I don't believe in the Democrats. I don't believe in the Republicans. I definitely don't believe in our liberals in Canada. They're a joke. The joke of the century, really. And then on top, I'll tell you how stupid Canada is, okay? Just to show you how stupid Canada is. And it took Asians to stop this insanity of this country. The Parliament was going to pass not legislation, but a mandate, for lack of a better term, to lower the flags and raise the Chinese flags up for 71 years of their communist existence. Like, why in the F would we do that? Okay, now there were Asians from China that stopped the government from doing this. Asians from China stopped that from happening, not Canadians. Asians, because they know what China is all about. But our Prime Minister, the ass-kisser that he is to China, and the Parliament, which are also ass-kissers to China, we're going to lower our flag and raise their flag. That would have signified to China that they've won Canada. Now, I don't know what's going on with Trudeau and Trump. Canada and the States have never had this kind of situation going on. This would never have happened 30 years ago, I assure you. 30 years ago, there would have been so much pressure on this country from the United States that they would have collapsed their economy. But right now, the United States has got so many distractions going. This election is a joke. I saw the Biden and Trump thing for about 5 minutes. Turned it off. I had enough. But Biden ain't going to win this. If he had to win this on brains, he ain't got any. But anyhow, but this is how the slaves are made, through entertainment, through distraction. So I was watching something about the Noahide laws. I've got it in the pod. I got it in the link. I actually put it on the Wimkin. If you go to my Wimkin channel, I put it up there already. And I want you to pay attention to the 9-minute and 20-second mark. Start from there and watch from that point on. There are a lot of Christians that believe in the Christian Judaic bullshit. It's total bullshit. That concept is nothing but a Zionist programming, infiltration. They have got Christians supporting a Zionist movement to undermine Christianity. I looked at this, I thought, you got to be kidding me. Nobody could be this effing stupid. And obviously they don't read the Bibles correctly. Bible says that of Abraham, whoever blesses Abraham, I will bless, and he who curses Abraham, I will curse. It doesn't say anything about Israel. And just because they are people of Israel doesn't mean that everybody of Israel is of Hebrew or Israeli or Israelite descent. And the Zionists who have perpetrated the concept of Israel are anti-Christ, anti-Christian. Some people are going to have the hard time. I already got one email saying, well, if you're against Israel, you're against Jesus. How the hell does that work out? They hung Jesus on the cross. All Jesus came down to do is tell them the message of the kingdom and how he could get them to the other side. And for his trouble, they killed him. Really? How is it that I'm not hating anybody, really. I'm just criticizing, and criticizing strongly and justly, because if you say anything that is against Israel, according to Noahide laws, and again, I guess Christians read that really well too, but according to Noahide laws, if you say anything that's anti-Israel at all, or if you don't bow down to Israel, they can cut your head off with a sword. Imagine that. Imagine people supporting that concept. You're a Christian, you believe in Jesus, and you're supporting the Zionist movement to put your heads in a yoke of slavery to another country, swearing an allegiance to them. Why is this happening? See, I have this perspective after reading some things that have alarmed me, that everywhere the Zionists have gone, where Christians were wealthy and have helped these people, they're like a swarm. They're like a swarm of locusts. They come in and they wipe everything out and leave the people that helped them destituted to die. Now, I don't know if you agree with that or not, and that is and again, I'm not anti-Semitic because I can't be anti-Semitic because I am Semitic. I come from a Semitic culture. But I'm going to tell you this. Christians are going to get slaughtered. I've been saying this for a long time. The concept of believing this bullshit about Christian Judaic nonsense, The only value we share is that we believe in the living God. They're under the law. I put a whole big thing in one of the blogs on the Wimkin, where Romans explains this, Paul explains this, how even Jesus criticized these people, called them a brood of vipers. You're of your father the devil. Wow. If you had known Abraham, you would have rejoiced in seeing me. They were anti-Jesus or anti-Christ as well. So and again, I saw this, and I think everybody who professes to believe in the Bible, this is why I tell everybody at the end of the show to read the Gospels for yourself. Read what Jesus had to say, and don't listen to anybody else's bullshit. Period. Because everyone opinions are like arseholes. Everybody has an opinion. Everyone's got an arsehole, unless you're an alien or something. So this is why I encourage you to read the Gospels for yourself. Don't follow any religious ideologies. Don't listen to any kind of nonsense coming from the TV evangelicals. That's a joke. Most of those are Zionists, Jesuits, or Masons. And they all have their own antichrist agenda. So when you're looking at the Scripture and you're reading the Gospel and reading what Jesus had to say, that's the standard. If you're a believer, if you're a Christian, if you're a follower of Christ, that's the standard. Not the Mosaic Law, what Jesus had to say, and the things that have happened after Christ was here. As I said, we're under a new covenant. Someone wrote me, I wrote to somebody wrote me about it because I said we're not into legalism. Apparently she never read the Bible either. She says, well, she felt that the Lord had led her to whatever. I never questioned anything that, when people tell me that the Lord leads them somewhere. I sometimes wonder what God they're listening to, but that's sometimes I question that in my mind. But because again, I don't know. I have no idea. I can't validate or disrepute what they're saying. But I let them go their own way. I figure if you're going to go somewhere and you're not meant to go, sooner or later God will smack you in the back of the head and get you to look at what you should be looking at, and then get you back on the right track. After all, you are His children, so He will deal with you accordingly. That's how I see things. I look at things from that angle. The social engineering that's going on, I now have to wonder if the mask idea are coming from Zionism. I have to wonder. I have to wonder, because the whole concept of these masks are a form of Baal worship. And if you look at the Zionists, they are Baal worshippers. All of them. And I'm saying, and this is about health, because I'm going to tell you something. If you think you're following God and you're following the devil, sooner or later the devil is going to chew you up and spit you out. And the Bible says, my people perish for lack of wisdom and lack of knowledge. So it's up to you to do your own investigation on this. I'm pointing this out so that you don't get sucked in. And some of you are going to, get all pissed off and say, well, you shouldn't talk like that about the Jews. Well, I'm not talking about the Jews. And the term Jew is a very derogatory term. Okay, and if you look at the dictionary and the definition of what the word Jew means, it's equivalent to the N-word for the Negroes. That's what it means. Very close to it. And it has other connotations of being dishonest, thieving, and undermining. And that's the definition. I'm not saying that that's what these people are, but that's the definition of that word. So when you're looking at the proper connotation of the people of Israel, they should be either Israelites, or Hebrews. That's the proper term. Initially, the word Jew, but anyway, I was saying this, that was reference to the people of Judah. But it no longer has that meaning. So, like I said, under social engineering, they got everybody in a state of fear. In a state of fear. It is a sabotage on a national system. It's a sabotage. It's like it's like the same idea that I can't think of the guy now that wiped out Philistines. Not Samson, but another one. I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and I can't remember his name now right off the bat. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get here is this: when you can get a people so afraid of nothing, of absolutely nothing, it can be very easy to take them out, very easy. So, like I said, when you're looking at what's happening, the undermining of America, the undermining of Canada, the undermining of Europe, who has the most to gain here? A swarm of locusts that can come in and then wipe everything out? When we're looking at the whole sabotaging of economies, sabotaging of our freedoms, who would want to enslave us? Who would want to take away our freedoms? Who would want to take away our privileges? Who would want to take away our prosperity? Who would want to take away our way of life? You know, you can say, well, the Chinese would want to do that. The Chinese are living like Americans. They're living like the West, I should say. You know, they have relaxed a lot of their concepts. And yes, there's always will be a power struggle with the superpowers. That will never change. Anybody who's at the top of the food chain will always be in a competitive mode to do whatever. But something that doesn't have the balls to confront people straight on, cowards that would hide in the shadows because they are either afraid or don't have the power to prevail against the people that have these type of privileges, would be the ones that would be the most sabotaging of the whole bunch. And I'm saying this so that everybody opens their eyes. Everything that we've been taught in the last 60 years or since the Second World War has been bullshit and a lie and a game. And we can no longer allow ourselves the luxury of being ignorant today, because ignorance will cost you everything you've ever worked for. And I'm presenting this so that everybody will start to open their eyes. We have, in North America, have had opportunities and privileges that other countries never had. Other countries also had privileges and things that we've never had. But in no time in history has everybody all at once had been collapsed to create this kind of destructive force. You couldn't do this with a war. You couldn't do this with a war. You know, this, and again, I've been saying this for the longest time, we are in World War III. World War III has already started. And by causing people to be, again, enslaved or to surrender to a pile of rubbish that doesn't exist, and then placating this gains to make money, this is unconscionable. Unconscionable. And some of you will never get it. Some of you will never get it. Some of you will never, ever even lift a finger to investigate anything. And I get that. I see that all the time. You would rather stick your head up your ass and do nothing than to actually look and see things that as they are and make changes as needed. You won't do that. And I know for the most part that's like about 90% of the general population. 90%. Unfortunately, that 90% are dull, dim-witted, and cannot even grasp some of the simplest things that we talk about sometimes on the air. The rest will, the other 10% will work at it. We'll see it. We'll actually initiate some sort of search to investigate the facts or fallacies of what's being said. Yeah, and the interesting thing about all of this, when you look at the history of what happened in the Second World War, the perpetrated 6 million people executed, more like 80,000 from what I've seen, or from what I've been told, or from what I've researched. Only 80,000. But Christians that were slaughtered during those times had exceeded 6 million. There were at least over 6 million Christians in Europe, There weren't 6 million Hebrews in Europe, and all of Europe at that time. So I'm beginning to wonder, when I read some of this stuff, the numbers, who switched the numbers? Who turned the tables? Somebody might say, well, you know, I don't believe you. Okay, don't. Investigate it for yourself. Don't ask me to show you this or show you that. Because if you ask me to show you this or show you that, you'll never come up with the answers, because all you want to be at that point is argumentative, and you'll defend an idea or defend a concept that isn't even true. And a lot of things are going on today that we're seeing. You know, the Cold War that went on between Russia and the United States. Was it a Cold War, or was that a front? See, we got a lot of things going on that are undermining and underhanded, and have brought us to where we're at today. And you have to examine everything under every rock today, because we have accepted things as fact that aren't fact at all. Fallacies and fantasies and deceptions. And till you do that, you'll be like a mushroom, fed a lot of shit and kept in the dark. That's exactly what you'll be like. And some of you might get pissed off and you never want to hear the network again. That's fine. Go your way. That truth isn't meant for you, and those who hear it will investigate it, because it's going to alarm you. This is the thing about the truth. This is the one thing about the truth that's universal. And I don't care what you are. I don't care where you come from. I don't care your ethnicity. I don't care about your color. I don't care about your background. The one thing about the truth is it will alarm you. Because once you hear the truth and see the truth, you're going to change. You're going to be outraged. You're going to be infuriated. You're going to be in such a state of mind to feel so, and you're going to feel so stupid because you fell for it. Remember this, because I deal with that all the time. I deal with my own stupidity and some of the things that I thought was genuine and aren't. You can only go by what you know and by what you believe, based on the facts that you have at that point in time. But beliefs, like the truth, will change as more information comes out and more relevance of the truth comes out to see the real truth. The more facts you get, the more things will change about what your perceptions are, and what you think is the truth. See, when I always equate this when someone accepts Jesus. They come along, they accept Jesus, right? And they're all bubbly and they're happy they found God, and they're excited. And now they start reading the Gospels, and they're really more excited seeing the things that Jesus did and what He said. But then as time goes on, and they get involved with different ministries, and some of them are again Jesuit, some of them are again Zionists, some are more Masons, Masonic. They get jaded. They don't know they're getting jaded because they don't know enough to know the difference. So they get jaded. And this is how cults work. And what we're seeing right now going on across the board are cults. Cults are trying to take over the mass population. This is what we're seeing. We're seeing the cults coming in, getting everybody to be complicit and complying to ideologies that have nothing to do with the truth. This whole thing with the corona and the COVID-19 and the boogeyman is coming for you. This is all a cult. This is all, you can call it an occult or a cult. Both work very similarly. One uses enchantments, one uses deception, which can be enchanting, to get you to comply and to be complicit to a way of life or principles that you would add to your life to support something that is ungodly, or to support something, to support an agenda, which most of the time is ungodly. So I'm giving you this perspective as someone who's been through two cults, and I can tell you straight out that what we're going through right now is a form of cult initiation. Why are the Noahide laws even in the United States at all? This is a country that was founded supposedly on Christian principles, which I don't believe that's true either, more like Masonic principles. But here are people who believe in Jesus, believe that he's the Savior, believe he's the one that's going to get you to the Father. He says, no man comes to the Father except through me, and I am the way, the truth, and the life. That one sentence in Scripture, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man come to the Father except by me. That in of itself refutes everything of legalism in regarding to getting to God through some legalistic approach or some Zionistic approach. This will be the crux of make or break, just that one text alone. So when you're seeing this and understanding this, and you're beginning to see some of the things that the church is teaching is nothing but a cult. And it's brainwashing you using biblical truths and references to entrap you in the ideals that they want you to have. This is why I say when you read the Gospels, you read the Gospels. Don't let anybody teach you anything. Don't let anybody bullshit you with anything. Read them first. Read them several times over and over. And as I said, don't get frustrated if you don't understand it right away, because you got it. You're dealing with the God program, and if you're not in the God program, you're in the other program. And as long as you're in the other program, see, those two programs are conflicting. They conflict with each other. One goes to the right, one goes to the left, one goes up, one goes down. And until you get more of the God program going on in your head, or in your soul, or in your spirit, or in your heart, there'll always be the conflict. But the more of the God program you get, the conflict becomes less and less and less. And that's the whole point to why Jesus came, to reboot us back. He didn't reboot us to the laws of Moses. He didn't reboot us to Zionism. He rebooted us back to the Father. That's what the whole reboot was all about. So I'm pointing this out to everybody, and so that you get a perspective, an idea of what's going on. And this may be true in other beliefs as well, whatever you may believe, that you have to realize that perhaps you have a Masonic infiltration, perhaps you have a Jesuit infiltration, perhaps you have a Zionist infiltration. These are things that should make you go, and some of you might say, wow, how do we know? Read what Jesus had to say. If it conflicts with what he has to say, and based on the understanding you have, then you know if Jesus is the standard, if he is the standard, okay, then everything else falls short. That's that simple. That's just that simple. If Jesus is telling you it's left, and the infiltrators are saying that it's right, and they're giving you all these, people tell me, well, you have to go line upon line, text upon text. This is one of those situations where I explained that you can do that concept and still mislead people with bullshit, because you're manipulating the scripture. So basically, when I say read what is there, make up your own decisions. And I always say pray to God, since it's God's word. Let God's program run its course. That's what you really need to see and understand. Anything that conflicts with that, the words you're reading, that what Jesus said, okay, nowhere in there does he say you have to follow the laws of Moses. So he says keep the law, but he's talking to the Hebrews. And when you look at what Paul says in Romans and other places, and Paul was a Pharisee who understood the law because he lived for the law until he got converted. So my point is, read what Christ has to say. Again, I didn't think I was going to get into this part of it, but I saw this thing there, and I'm telling you, I had some choice words. I was speaking in tongues, Canadian ones. Some of those words are a little bit strong, salt of the earth, but this is another thing I'm seeing assaulting us to take away our freedom. Imagine one day you wake up and they say you're under the Noahide laws, and if you have a Bible, you have to surrender your Bible. And if you don't surrender your Bible, they're going to cut off your frickin' head. What are you going to do then? What are you going to do then? By then, it's too late. By then, it's too late. We already got a cult going on right now with this mass. This mass is bullshit. It's all Baal worship. It's Moloch worship. It's all horseshit. All of it. There is no boogeyman out there. There is no virus. There's nothing. Totally nothing. Okay? The coronavirus, let me remind you all. Those of us who were born in the 50s, okay, born in the 1950s, by the time 1963, 1965 came by, okay, I was myself between 7 and 9 years old at the time. We're exposed to the coronavirus. The labs that created this shit released it on the general population. Figured they could kill some more people. I mean, why not? You're just an experiment. You live in a ghetto. You're poor. Who gives a shit about you? You're nobody. You got nothing. You can die. Perfect. It's perfect lab. Perfect test ground. We were exposed. The fact that we're still here means that our immune system created what was required to keep us alive. We didn't wear masks. We didn't have a diaper on our mouth, over our face. We weren't wearing hand condoms. Were we? See, do you remember anybody wearing a bunch of hand rubbers back then? Oh, look, I got my hand rubber on. Ooh, I'm excited. I'm protected. I got my mask. Ooh, my mask is going to protect you. Yeah. That bullshit never would have flown back then. You know. And then, the other kicker, this is the one that gets me the most. Hand sanitizers. Oh, it's free. Use it. Oh, it's right there for you. Don't hesitate. Hand sanitizers loaded with methanol. When they distill sugar to create alcohol, the first thing they dump out is the methanol in the alcohol. Because the methanol can cause blindness, brain damage, liver damage, brain cancers, tumors in the brain, tumors in the liver, cancer in of the liver. And you're soaking your hands in that shit. It astounds me. It astounds me. I look at this all the time and think, I got people say, are you going to use the hands? No, I'm not using that. So I already got chemicals on my hand. I don't need your chemicals too. There might be a reaction. But my ass, and I just keep walking. You know, have the mind of your own. Have a mind of your own. Stand up, you might be surprised. Stand up, you might be surprised. I had a couple of people come to my store yesterday and today that didn't wear a mask. They walked in, they actually read the signs. I was surprised. They actually read the signs and realized they didn't have to wear a mask if they didn't want to. Because the mandate's there to wear the mask, but the mandate's also there saying if you got exemptions, you don't have to wear a mask. They had exemptions. Come on in. See, they stood up, they came in, we had a good conversation. We talked about the ludicrousness of what's going on, the insanity of what's going on, the horseshit of all that's happening. You know, it's again, I'm hoping more and more people start again seeing that and I hope more and more stores, including in America. I don't understand America, the land of the free. Free my ass, you bunch of slaves, a bunch of lily ass slaves. When you put the mandates on there about wearing the mask, how come you're only putting half the mandate? Why aren't you putting the other side of the mandate, saying that if you have an exemption, you have access, you have right and access to come to the store. You don't have to wear a mask. How many of you in the States, in the United States of America, that have shops and stores, how many of you inadvertently may have caused undue duress to people who had heart conditions, diabetic issues, brain issues, chemical issues in their bodies, autoimmune disorders going on, compromised immune systems, that you force them to wear an effing mask just so they can come into your effing store? It's repulsive is what it is. Land of the free. Land of the fucktards is what I call it. It's seriously, that's F-tardery on the highest level. You know, you're worried about what exactly? Now, this is the other thing I'm going to mention also for Americans, that, again, some of you might get pissed off, but that's okay. It's nothing unusual. I'm good at that. What is it with this concept of having to force people to be enslaved? Where are these dead bodies? Are you seeing dead bodies in the streets? Are you seeing hordes and hordes of bodies laying all over the street, being set on fire? Are you seeing this? I haven't seen it here in Canada. Europeans haven't seen it in Europe. Africans haven't seen it in Africa. Asians haven't seen it in Asia. Australia and New Zealand haven't seen it down there either. If this was really a major pandemic, because now you're going to see all kinds of bullshit coming from the Oval Office. Oh yeah, you got to buy, and they're probably going to come up with a brand new mask, a high-tech mask that you can now buy because the president's using this mask now. Or the hydrochloroquine is going to be sold like candy now, or some shit for the pharmaceutical industry, and yet you don't even use your eyes to see what you need to see around you. Nobody is dropping dead on the street. Can you imagine that? So if we're not seeing this death toll, if we're not seeing the hospitals rise, all I see, and I'll tell you this, all I see is the numbers are going up all the time. In Ontario, oh, we got 1,000 people a day getting COVID. Oh, it's out. Getting what COVID? There's no COVID. 1,000 people a day. Oh my gosh, we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to set you back, put you back to stage 2, stage 1, stage 0. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is horrific. Oh, it's horrific. It's horrific because when your eyes can tell you there's nobody in the street, nobody dying, no bodies, the body count's not going up in the hospitals. You can go to any hospital, check it out. The hospitals are not, bulging out because people are just, stacked bed upon bed because they've got this pandemic. Oh, the pandemic. As I said, we were already exposed back in the 60s. That means we all carry the antibody to the corona. Oh, it's got SARS too. Well, guess what? 1990, we were exposed to SARS. And if you didn't drop dead from SARS then, that meant your immune system developed an antibody for that as well. Gosh, you got the corona antibody, you got the SARS antibody, so what the bloody hell are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And if you got a government there and your governors are trying to profit, because we got our premier on the lawsuit over here. He makes a move, we're going to sue the shit out of him. So, and we're going to be suing, and I think everyone's going to probably put a lawsuit, and we're going to burden the courts with these lawsuits against these government officials that are passing these mandates for no reason whatsoever. There is no justification to this lockdown on any level, or wearing a effing mask, or soaking your hands in methanol, or wearing hand condoms. Yet here we are. 90% of the population walking around in their sleepwalking, acting like mushrooms, being fed a lot of shit and kept in the dark, and believing everything they're being fed. It astounds me. Just astounds. The government has never ever told you the truth. Even Trump. They've never ever told you the truth. Ever. They told you what was convenient, what sounded like truisms, but they've never ever told you the truth. Ever. The last president that the United States had was John F. Kennedy. He was the only one that had the balls to go after the secret societies. What we today know as the Rothschilds, the Zionists, the Masonics, the Jesuits, and the Trilateral Commissions, and the monarchists, and all that crap, all of it. And they killed him for it. Last one. Last guy to do. And since then, the presidency has been controlled very hard by other parties of more power. So my point I'm trying to get across is start learning to think for yourself. When I tell people to read the Gospels and read it for themselves, I'm telling them basically to think for themselves what they're reading. And the same thing with what's going on around you. I'm telling you the same thing. Think for yourself. Think for yourself. It's not something about, just follow. You're not to follow anything that is out there. Or believe in any bullshit that is being propagated. It's not something that you need to be doing. Again, it makes absolutely no sense that you would do it. So again, I'm presenting the social engineering, and even in the health, I'm going to get into the health part of social engineering. See, everyone's got this bullshit about being a vegan and not eating meat, and now we got everybody into this tofu shit, tofu this and tofu that, and miso this and miso that. It's such a bunch of rubbish, all of it, garbage shit that you would feed. You wouldn't even feed to a pig, because it would cause a pig to become sterile, and it would stop the livestock from even reproducing. But now they want to sell you a canola. A canola protein. If you've been following anything that I've been saying for the longest time in regard to soy, things are of omega-3, not to be using them, and why not to be using them. Rapeseed as a meat substitute. Rapeseed is canola. And they'll give you the whole shooting match and how great and wonderful it is, but this shit will kill you too. They are trying so hard to stop everybody from eating meat, and the fantasies and the fallacy about cow shit, causing global warming, or cow farts. I mean, come on. If you believe that, I got some Canadian cheese to sell you on Uranus. We'll have the Martians deliver it to your door tomorrow. Anything that they're propagating today as a health substance or substitute or a meat substitute. Look, the other day the Dutch got a $50 million grant to manufacture lab-grown meat. Lab-grown meat. Doesn't that sound terrible? Something that might be genetically engineered in a lab, and it's going to come out tasting like meat, but it ain't going to be meat. It's going to be some kind of monstrosity that might cause all kinds of genetic damage to the body, just like this rapeseed would cause major genetic damage to the body. Like I said, pay attention. Don't get caught up in the trend. Well, I'm a tutti frutti, and I'm a vegan, and I tiptoe through the tulips. Oh, vegan, yeah. Oh, you're a cruel bastard. You eat meat, When I hear that, sometimes I say, oh, good, you don't eat meat? No, I don't eat meat. I love animals. I do too. I love animals as well. I love them so much I like to consume them. Some of you might get offended with that too. Who cares, And I find, then I actually say to them, well, if you're not going to eat your meat, that's fine. I'll eat your share. No big deal. More for me. More for me. And they all walk away, all sad and just whatever. And then you see them about a year later, and they look like they're about 90 years old because their body's been so deprived. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I saw these videos on these vegans and how they will defend to the death about not eating meat, and yet they look like hell. After about 3 years, they look terrible. And I said that usually takes 3 to 5 years before they start looking like shit. All depends on how well their body has stored their resources. Once those resources are exhausted and they don't replace them, they start to die. And they look it too. I hear guys say, well, I see this 15-year-old, she's a vegan, she looks so hot. Yeah, right. Go date her. You see how many pills she's taking. You'll see all the other shit she has to consume and take in order to stay on her feet. That's a burden. They don't need that. They're finding out as well about Alzheimer's. And I've been telling you that Alzheimer's is tied to epigenetics. And guess what? They just came out and discovered that. Wow, they should just read my information off my sites. They would have got there a lot sooner, maybe like 10 years ago. Epigenetics is the major cause of every disease, and epigenetics is tied to anything that's in the environment that can cause genetic damage or rewriting of the genes or damaging DNA. And when you're talking brain issues, our brains are being constantly saturated with heavy metals like aluminum and lithium and strontium and titanium and silica and all kinds of shit that shouldn't be in our head. And when the stuff gets to a certain point and it starts creating circuitry in the brain then tries to create a amount of defense against some of this stuff, and then it produces the proteins to try to block or to collect these nanoparticulates that are in the air that we're breathing. As a result, the brain gets all buggered up, gets dammed up, and now you have like a short circuit going on into the brain. This is what happens. And I said this before, every disease that is known to mankind is due to some kind of epigenetic exposure. Every disease, it doesn't matter if you're alkaline or acidic, it has nothing to do with it. If you've been exposed with nanopoisoning and your nano program has been activated, it won't matter which way you go. You can be acidic, you can be alkaline. This will still survive in any environment. Anybody tells you anything different, they're full of shit. End of story. It will, if you're eating fruit and vegetables, the nanomaterial that's on your plants, inside the DNA of the plants, feeds on carbon. It loves carbon. So if you're being a vegan, say, I'm going to be a vegan, I won't have to worry about nano. Well, nano is already in your food. If you're a meat eater, carnivore, or an omnivore, eat both meats and vegetables, it's going to be in your meat too. But the difference about the meat is that at least the animal that you may be eating, whether it be a cow, goat, sheep, chicken, whatever, will have filtered a lot of that nano through its lymphatic system and through the liver and through the kidneys. You're still going to get it though. There's no way around it. They have saturated everything, and then the frequencies, once they activate these particulates to assemble and create a network, this is where the problems begin. It's now trying to take you over. So, be aware of this more and more. I said to you many times, in order to maintain health in today's times, you have to protect your genetic code, you have to protect your DNA, you have to protect your chromosome code, you have to protect your ATP production, you have to protect your oh crap, it just in my head just fell out. But anyway, these things you have to protect. You have to protect your antioxidant production. You have to your enzyme production. These are very key aspects. Your ATP production. These are the things you need to really, really pay attention to in order to maintain health today. If you're exposed to a high level of epigenetics, then you're going to need to take more of whatever you need to offset whatever you're being exposed to. I did find something on the internet today, and I thought, you know what, this was a corona test. And I said, you know what, I would even take that test. I would take that test in a minute. And when you watch this YouTube video, the guy is hilarious. He points out that, your sense of smell and your sense of taste go if you got corona. So what does he do? He pours himself a big bottle of wine. I would use brandy. I'm a brandy guy. I would use brandy. Now, he poured the wine. He says, well, first you smell it. If you can smell it, good chance, about 90% chance, 95%, you don't have COVID, the corona. But then you got to taste it. So he put it in his mouth and he swishes it around his mouth. And he says, if you can taste it, that means you don't have corona. But, he said, no test is 100%. So you have to retest yourself. That's the part I liked. Just to make sure you do another test, or 2, or 3, or 4. So I put that in there as more of a humorous thing, again, to lighten up the load. And they did the vaccine trials again with the COVID-19, the certification of vaccination identification AI. They used that, and the side effects were atrocious. Side effect was atrocious. So again, go check it out. You can see that this fast tracking of this vaccine, somebody's going to die. And guess what? About 40% are going to die. That would make Bill Gates very happy. The vaccines he figured would take out 15%. When we get to 40%, oh, he'll be dancing. He'll be dancing on your grave. Yay, you're dead. Woohoo. Silly Billy. And I also got in here about Ford in Ontario. Another embellisher of bullshit. And what he's going to do, so you might want to read that as well. Okay, 1,000 new cases per day. Really? Ontario has about 13 million people. We're the most heavily populated province in Canada. 1,000 people a day? Ooh. So he's going to try to tell me there's 30,000 people a month coming down with this. Somebody is smoking something. Maybe he's doing the corona tests. Maybe he's taking the test, and maybe he's overdoing the testing. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know for sure, but 30,000 a month. Come on, the hospitals would be so overloaded. The streets would be loaded with dead bodies everywhere at 30,000 a day. Somebody's putting up some bullshit. Probably more like 10 a day, maybe 100 a day, maybe 100 a day. Probably, like I said, more like 10. After all, you know, even the drug company like Pfizer is saying that the pandemic is over. We're past the hump. Nothing's going to happen. At this point, it's on its way out the door. So how does this guy come up with these kind of numbers? That's what I'm saying. When you hear that the corona is going up, the numbers are going up. Where are these numbers? Where are they getting them from? You know, out of thin air? Oh, let's say it's out, because you know they know that people are going to be stupid enough to believe them without questioning anything. Like I said, 90% are pretty well out the door. They're done. You know, these people will never see the light of day. You know, unless God really intercedes there or intervenes, they're done. And I don't sweat that anymore either. I figure, you know what? It's all about choices. It's all about waking up. It's all about doing what you got to do to stay awake. And if you're not wanting to stay awake, if you're not wanting to wake up, then more for me. That's all I can say. More for me. And finally, how Facebook can get you arrested. You may want to take a look at that. You may want to consider maybe not using Facebook, but going to Wimkin instead. Because apparently they have ways and means of having you arrested if you're on Facebook. So again, I want you to check that out. Check out the links. Share these links with everybody. Those who are awake and those who aren't. You know, I encourage you to do so, so that everybody can have an opportunity to wake up and not stay caught in the quagmire. Because, like I said, we are one hell of a quagmire. Alrighty, as I always reiterated in the beginning of the show, or some part in the show, is to read the Gospels. And again, I'm reiterating, please read the Gospel. Read what Jesus has to say. Do not let anybody interfere with your reading. You read and you understand to the best of your ability. And if you don't get it at first, don't worry about it. Just keep reading. Eventually, the God program will take over. On the site, I have people there that are active. You got the Sherry Three Hearts Church. You've got Shai in Israel. You've got Yanni in Switzerland. You've got Ty in California. You got, or I should say West Coast. You got Brian on the West Coast, and you got me here in Ontario. So anybody you feel free that you want to help out, please do so. Send them your support. Send them what you can. And if you don't have anything, don't worry about it. Just share the information. Just share and spread it, you know, far and wide. So that everybody has an opportunity to, again, you know, wake up and make a change and redirect their lives. You know, that's always great when you see somebody redirect their lives. You know, I always say at the end as well that we're still here by the grace of God. We are still here. So, and again, check them out. Check out the Wimkin that I put up there as well. It's a new site, so keep on checking it out. I'm constantly putting stuff up there all the time. My stuff is going to be very controversial. So again, if you can't handle controversy, then don't waste your time, because that's all you're going to see on that site, controversy. Alrighty, so until the next segment, to your house. Take care.